I have a confession to make. I have these moments of jealousy. Now, I have to admit, I don't spend a lot of my time worried about things I don't have or envious about the things that could be, but there's this one thing that really just bothers me every time I see it, and it's so pervasive all around me. It's like in my face all the time. And so obviously it's bubbling up within me. Okay, it's sports, okay? It's sports. Specifically the fandom around sports. Like how loyal folks are to their teams, and they wear the colors, and they have banners outside their houses with it, and they are endlessly watching ESPN. The reason probably that I'm troubled by it is that I'm a pastor, and I sometimes wish we were maybe 2% like that about the church. Go First-Plymouth! We're going to be handing out banners on your way out today. About a month ago, we headed with our child who's attending UNL in the fall for a accepted student day, and so we were blessed to join other parents and grandparents and guardians, and we were all there. And the moment we stepped foot on campus, the indoctrination began. The color and the banners and the cheers and the hoorahs and all the things, it was everywhere. We couldn't look anywhere without an N somewhere. And so it went through the day with, band and cheerleaders and football players and all the amazing alums of this great university, and it was quite a sight to see. And I'm happy to report, if you're in the PR department at UNL, let me tell you, it worked. They, knowing something about our human hearts, our needs to belong, our needs to connect, they knowing that we need each other to be part of something larger than us. And so they spent a whole day shaping this new incoming class of folks to be part of this larger vision and to take my money, of course. Today's scripture is rooted in an understanding that the way of Jesus is a way of life. It's not a way of intellectual thinking. It's not a set of doctrines, as we often tell you in this space. You hear us constantly telling you about that. But the reason why we remind you that it's not doctrine or dogma or ways of thinking about things is because we're constantly trapped in it sometimes. At its core, it's a way of behaving in the world, a way of being in the world. And so the gospel writer is assuming that those of us who are hearing this text today know that it's part of a larger vision, a way of being that's deeply rooted in this God who became flesh, love incarnate itself. And that this encounter that we've had with said God, an encounter that doesn't just happen once or twice, but it's constantly happening around us, that encounter changes our hearts and souls into a new vision, the most human vision, the most real vision. And so then, after we've clarified what this looks like, and the Gospel of Luke is infamous for giving us this reversal of ways. So blessed are the poor, blessed are the downtrodden, blessed are the marginalized, blessed are those who are persecuted. Then he gives us what I like to call the hardest gospel. If you were to stop me today and tell me what's the most difficult aspect of Jesus' teaching, I would say to love the enemy. And boy, do we have a growing list of enemies in our world today? We all have them. These are human beings who maybe have done harm to us in some way. Human beings that we might be afraid of. These might be people who maybe use their power in ways that do not encourage common good. Or maybe it's just someone that we're so ideologically opposed to that we cannot even see how we might bridge that chasm that's there. Or people whose opinions deny our reality or our being in the world. That's an enemy. What do you mean, love my enemy, we might say. In fact, I might even say that on this day when I hear it, even read this morning, I had a moment where I thought, that loving of the enemy thing is not good news, that's bad news. What are we to do with this hard gospel in a world that is constantly convincing us that there are enemies all around us? That we should be doubtful of everybody, especially those that are unlike us, physically, ideologically, philosophically, intellectually, an enemy. What are we to do? And in fact, Jesus actually gets a little funny in here with us, doesn't Jesus? Jesus says, because isn't it easy to love people that are like you? It's easy to love people that love you. It's easy to like people that are like you. It's easy to welcome people that look just like you, that believe like you and think like you. That's easy. This is a hard gospel. As a pastor, I'm concerned because I just see all this enemy making around me. And I see it in my own heart. I don't know about you, but I feel it in my own heart. Maybe I'm bombarded by all the social media around us adding to my list with every notification on it. Now I have a new enemy to think about. Keeping tabs. I'm trying to listen in for the slightest sign in that other's talk that maybe we're too different. I'm trying to read the tea leaves in the rooms that I'm in to see who's friendly here. Heck, if I'm honest, I might even walk into this place called the church, make sure that my pew mates are of like mind. Then I hear Jesus' words. Juan Carlos, just love. Love this enemy too. Now, I'm so thankful that Jesus didn't tell me to invite my enemy home or to text them every day to see how they're doing or to go to lunch with them occasionally or to be friends with them. No, love. Jesus says to love. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or arrogant or rude. Love doesn't insist in its own way. Love, it's the invitation. And in the end, that love frees us. See, I know that things happen in our lives that hurt us and harm us, sometimes to such extremes. The invitation is that though the human responds to that harm and that hurt and that division and that anger and that despair, though the response is to pay it back in kind, we're being invited into a different response from that moment. That though the invitation for us is to dehumanize that enemy, that we're invited as followers of Jesus to do the complete opposite. to humanize the enemy. Desmond Tutu, in one of his books called The Book of Forgiving, he tells us that he's inviting us into a new way of thinking about those who harmed us. He tells us the story of a gentleman who was very abusive to his family, and the friends gathered around this human one who was being, victimized in that way, and the friend says, "He's nothing but a monster." And Desmond Tutu says he took a deep breath and says, oh no. No, see, a monster doesn't have the human agency to do different. And this man does. A monster cannot be put into account for the actions that they have committed, but this man has. No human is a monster. A human can do monstrous things, but they still can choose to do different. Arthur Brooks wrote a book called actually Loving Your Enemy, and he says that actually this enemy making that we're living through is part of what he sees as a key problem to our civic life. That pretty quickly we're actually kind of paranoid of one another. We can't even have conversations together because we immediately make characterizations and generalizations about the other with words and phrases and ways of thinking and being and looking, so that we're building walls with each other. So he invites us to a kind of civic life that's more engaged, that we put aside the characterizations and the labels and the name calling, and we kind of bring it home into the day-to-day relationships we have with curiosity and intention. It seems impossible, doesn't it? But remember what I told you at the beginning. You're right. For each of us, this is impossible. But the claim of the Christian faith is that we have the power of the Spirit together. That the Spirit is poured down upon us over and over again, and that by the power of the Spirit, God is present in us, divine life itself within us, and that then together we can face these challenges ahead. So we loving enemy together with the mercy and the grace that's abundant for all of us. As our Lord's Prayer reminds us each week, forgive us as we forgive those who have hurt us. These days, we have a challenge. But I would say that it's been the challenge of being human in the world. If you read every generation, they think they're living through these days. It's always hard because life is hard. Something that I tell my young adult children often these days. There are always these days. And the question is, what are we to do with these days? What is the antidote to what we're seeing in the world? And the temptation is that we fight fire with fire, isn't it? So the question is, Pastor, what are we to do today in light of all that's happening in the world? What are we to do in light of the headlines around us? What are we to do? And then all of a sudden, pastors have very little to tell you other than what we tell you every week, which is that you do not fight fire with fire. You do not fight hopelessness with hopelessness. You fight hopelessness with hope. You fight violence with peace. You fight despair with joy. You fight marginalization with belonging. See? What are we to do in these days? How are we to love enemy? We are to do it with love. Now there is the question about how we keep each other and our communities and our leaders accountable. Here's when the great bell Hooks comes to the rescue for me. If you haven't read her, you should. She says that the question of loving enemy is really a question of accountability. How are we to call accountable that one that has harmed the other? And she says that in order for us to do that, we have to remember one thing, which is that do we still have the imagination to believe that through love, that other human can be transformed? That if we love enough, that other can change. Does that sound familiar to you? We are the people that believe that if we love, it can change everything. That even a mustard seed of our love can open doors. That even the tiny, wimpy little love you got left, that little bit of love that you might have deep within your soul, that's enough to begin a revolution. That if we together hold hands together in love and we treat the other with love, that all of a sudden we are going to be able to reach heights like we've never reached before, and that transformation can begin to happen not just in our hearts but in the worlds we live in. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And so it begins with us refusing the language of enemy making and name calling. It begins with us coming together and coalescing around movements towards a more just world. It begins with us having conversations across difference that are real and raw and difficult. It begins with us doing the work of a transformed people, ever transforming as we love one another day to day in the difficulty of life. This hardest gospel, deeply rooted in who this God is. People of God, look around. Pay attention. There's only one thing we can do. Oh, in First-Plymouth, we already do it so well. So let's go together and let's do some loving. The world needs it.